I want to introduce first the people who led the trip. Brandon and Leah Knuckles actually put this mission trip together. Well, you guys, it's kind of a long walk, and we're all going to take these steps. So Brandon and Leah, go ahead and start coming up right now. I want to introduce you, both of you, Brandon and Leah. Brandon led the trip, but Leah did all kinds of work behind the scenes in organizing. And the trip just went off without a hitch because of their hard work. And the truth of the matter is, they jumped in and saved the day because the folks who were going to lead this trip backed out. And I got a hold of Brandon and Leah, and I said, would you guys be willing to basically, rip the shirt open, reveal an S, and turn into super people and save this mission trip? And they did that, and they did an amazing job. Can we thank Brandon and Leah for their work? Come on over here, guys. I personally, obviously, deeply appreciate you doing that. It was huge, all right? It was like 5 months notice, I think. Is that what we have? Which is just not done in the mission trip world, and these guys put it together. Brandon, you did an amazing job as a leader before and after information meetings, communication, team meetings there. You're great, man. And Leah did all kinds of organizational work, as I said, and I asked Brandon, what could we do to thank Leah for all her behind-the-scenes work? And he suggested maybe a picture of the team. So I think we have a photo of this photo. It's our mission team, and this is, there we go. That's good. These beautiful faces are going to be Leah's memento. So Leah, thank you so much for your work. We really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys are great. Now the rest of the team, go ahead and come on up. Thank you so much, Leah. And we're all going to walk to your right, because there are lots of cables up here, and grab a seat. And our plan here for today was not to over plan, I guess. I didn't want to limit what folks wanted to say, and just said, essentially, we want to know what memories are you going to take from this trip? What could you share with all of us as a congregation that would kind of help us to experience that trip through your eyes? And aha moments, or memories, or thoughts, whatever. I said, whatever you want to say, you can say that. With one exception, it's going to be live on the internet and recorded for all time. So no pressure. And so we have a couple of microphones, and we'll just kind of pass those back and forth informally. We don't need to go around a certain, missing a couple. We don't need to go around the circle necessarily. Just when you hear something, you'd like to jump in. If somebody says something, you're like, you know what I have to share kind of piggybacks that. You just, make some frantic gesture for the microphone, and we'll pass you a microphone. And there's another one right there on that seat, and you can share. And I'll keep an eye on the clock, so you don't have to worry about that. And I'm really good at keeping an eye on the clock, right, you guys? So like, oh my word. So I'll take care of that. But just want to have you open to share. And then at the end of this, we have a 5-minute video that the Food for the Hungry team put together in Nicaragua. And we're going to show that video. So many of you will end up going to this very same place in the future. But this is your chance to hear about it. So who's the brave soul who wants to break the ice and go first and talk about your experience? Look at the kindness up here. No, after you. We bonded a little.
Yeah, how's this on volume? A little too loud? Not loud enough. So I just want to start out by saying a couple things about, one, this team. I can't thank this team enough. They were phenomenal, especially to go on a first division trip without a ton of information. We are the first church that Food for the Hungry has brought to San Bartolo. So a tremendous amount of bravery, courage, blind faith to just go out there. And while we were out there, and I think this is important for other teams to keep in mind as we keep going back to this place, was just every single person on the team was just in it to be there to serve whatever needed to be done. There was no, I don't like this food, I'm worried about this, any of that. It was just, we're there to serve, we're there to help, we are there to just do whatever needs to be done. And that was visible by everyone. Us as a team recognized each of us was acting that way, and then the people we were out there serving with recognized that. So I can't thank you guys enough for that. That was phenomenal. And then also just to tee off sort of a little bit to what Ryan was saying, what's awesome about this at Food for the Hungry and how they've set this up, this isn't us, we go in, we drop off some food, we feed some people. Awesome. Hope you guys had a little bit of extra food this month. Not bad at all. This is a 10 to 12-year plan. So imagine Food for the Hungry goes out to this village, to the leaders of this village, and they say, where do you see yourself in 10 to 12 years? Where do you see your community in 10 to 12 years? And when you're talking to people that are just trying to live day to day, that's a hard thing to think about. And what they do is they work with the leaders of the community to go, what are some of your natural resources? What can you do that's going to be sustainable, that's going to help your community, help your village, so that you can get out of sort of just surviving day to day, but become a sustainable community. And at that point, when that happens, we'll know we've done our job. And so this isn't a one and done, we're here to save the day. This is, we came in to help support. Where can we help you guys that are leading these efforts? Where can we support you in that? Because we want you to be sustainable. We want you to be on the upwards path, not just live day to day. So that I just want to make sure that we all as a church recognize that, because that is, I mean, that's the right way to look at it. That's what's going to matter for the long term. Sorry, did I use up my entire
Right
3
on,
minutes?
man.
Can I come back?
You can,
all right.
You're on a roll. You can go. Perfect.
And I want to add to that a little bit too. So I'm Darren, Brandon's brother, and that's the reason I went on the trip. So
my older brother.
So I felt compelled, and I think some of you might be like me. You're a little bit more skeptical maybe sometimes about giving your money away. You want to know where it's going, what it's being used for. And that's a lot of what Brandon's talking about. Food for the Hungry has already weeded out a lot of the villages that are just looking for a handout. You know, there's a lot of poverty over there. It's not just one village that's poor, and a lot of them are looking for a handout. Food for the Hungry, like you said, puts together a long-term plan for these people. And I thought that was pretty cool. So it's the people that are ready to do the hard work. That's the village that we're working with, the people that are really willing to dig in and put in the effort to get themselves from the present to the future. And I think that's something else that really I noticed, is that it's kind of a battle between the present and the future. And we are on the team of the future. So if when we do give our money and we do give our time, what we're doing is we're putting points into the column of the future. So if a kid is able to continue going to school because he's healthy and because he gets a nice meal at school, or he doesn't have the health issues that usually cause them to drop out, we get points for the future. When they get through school and they're educated, more points. And I think that's where it's important to know that's where your money is going. It helps remove those roadblocks so that the people that are there to do the hard work can do the hard work. And one other thing I thought was cool that I learned was that it's not just when you sponsor a child, those kids benefit. It's the whole village. So maybe not the whole village, but all the kids. All of the kids at school, you know, if they go to school, they get a meal and they get the health benefits. And that's really important too. So it's not that we're just handing out money to certain families here and there that have signed up for a program. We're actually doing something that could elevate, you know, society as a whole, really, if you're able to help just even one village, and that'll just impact everything around it. So I want to pass that on.
That's great, man. To put that in perspective, one of the major projects, remember when Irvin gave us the presentation when we first got there? Irvin's the national director of Food for the Hungry in Nicaragua. One of the major projects is deworming the kids because they have tapeworms that steal their nutrients and cause diarrhea, and they miss school. So when you're talking about points in the future column, perfect illustration, that's what we're talking about here. I mean, isn't it just shocking when you hear that? You're like, oh my word, that it's so simple, you know, such a simple solution, but perfect, man. Points for the future. It's awesome.
But I'd like to tell you a little bit about more of the details of how the trip went. As the date for our trip to Nicaragua grew closer, we were anticipating what an exciting adventure this was going to be. Into the unknown. This was a third world country, and we really didn't know what to expect. So we got our shots, we got our meds, we packed our bags as best we could, and hoped that we were prepared for whatever we would encounter. Food for the Hungry met us at the airport and had a very nice bus for us with air conditioning. Wow. It was good, wasn't it? And they took us for lunch, and then they gave us a presentation and a slideshow and told us about all the good work they were doing all over Nicaragua. Then we got on the bus and took the started the long journey, several hours, towards San Bartolo. We stopped off for that first night in Ocotal. The next morning, we drove into the village of San Bartolo, but we were not prepared for the tremendous welcome that they had put on for us. There were banners, flags, balloons, a PA system, and music. Several hundred adults and children were all gathered there in the elementary school, ready to greet us. There were speeches from the village leaders, and then Ryan and Brandon, and Food for the Hungry. After that, we were delighted by performances of singing, dancing, poetry, a couple of comedy skits, all by children of all ages. And at this point, for me, and I think others, this exciting adventure turned into a wonderful experience. We made it real for these people in the village. Food for the Hungry said we were going to be there, and there we were, just as they said. It was evident that Food for the Hungry had done an awful lot of work in arranging this and setting everything up for us. The next day, we visited with sponsored children, their siblings and parents, got to know each other a little bit better, gave some gifts. We had Food for the Hungry people, and a couple of the gals with us that spoke Spanish were able to translate. And we showed them photographs of our families and back home here. It was a wonderful experience. Food for the Hungry had just opened up an office in the nearby town of Kilali. So we went over there and met the new personnel, and we all had lunch together and talked about the future and everything. And, we did a bit of work on the feeding center. Very simple, provide a nice place where the children can have their provided lunch. There's a food storage area right next door. Everything was planned out. And the next thing would be to build what they call a wash station, where the children would be able to wash their hands before sitting down and having their lunch. Simple things like nutrition and basic hygiene to help with the community. I'll pass the mic on to whoever else would like to continue.
Thank you, Steve.
So before I start, I want to say hello to my grandparents who are streaming this from Maine. They were very, very excited this morning. Hi.
We all need to say hello to Maine
Say
right now.
hi, Bethel, Maine.
Bethel, Maine, in the house.
They were very, very excited when I called them this morning, and they were like, this is what streaming is. They were so excited. So hi to them. Much love to them. So as the team knows, I will probably cry while I talk. And because I already feel it, so it's probably going to happen. I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about how it affected me emotionally. Because I think the team knows, here it comes. I think the team knows that I was deeply emotionally affected when I was there. I'm fluent in Spanish. I don't even know if I said my name. My name's Rachel, if you don't know me. I teach 1st through 3rd twice a month. But so this is the way I've been telling the story to other people is when I found out that the opportunity to go to Nicaragua was there, I wanted to go because I love to serve others, and I also speak Spanish, and I was like, this will be great. But then as the date started looming near, I was like, I really don't know how this is going to happen. But then Ryan kept telling us to say that where God guides, God provides. And so that was kind of my mantra, and it's literally now like the lock screen on my phone. So I kept repeating that, and then by just amazingness, I was able to go. And then it didn't really seem real, and then I was at the airport, and we were going, and I slept most of the plane ride, and then as we were flying into Nicaragua, my favorite verse ever went through my head because I love the book of Esther. She's just perfect. And it's verse 4:14. It's perhaps this is the moment for which you were created. And I just kept saying to myself, okay, I don't know why this verse keeps running through my head. This is really weird. Maybe I'm being overexcited. because you guys know me. I don't have any energy. Um, but so the plane lands and we get on this bus and we're like driving through the town, and like the first like 10 minutes we were there, the best way to describe it is I felt like there was a weight that was lifted off of my soul. Sorry, I'm shaking. So again, I was like, maybe this is just me being overexcited. Maybe this is me just being me. But as the days went on, and as I went more into the village, and as they will attest, it was like honey to a bee to honey. I don't know, is that the phrase? Whatever. But yeah, basically. But they would just, yeah, like it was like swarms of just kids all the time, and I was literally like the happiest I've ever been. And I realized that second day when we sat with the people who worked for Food for the Hungry that it struck me that I felt like Nicaragua is where my soul feels at home. And I cried when I said that to them, so, and I said it in Spanish, and it was really funny because they ended up translating it back to the team in English. It wasn't me, but, so as the days went on, I just kind of threw myself into whatever I could do, and talking to the people, and being with the kids, and just existing with the kids, and I was very lucky to translate for Larry, which was just a mind-blowing, life-changing experience. And then when I was there, I was actually approached by the country director, who asked me if I would be interested in taking a job down there and teaching English down there. And he told me to sit on it for a month. It hasn't been a month, but I sent the email on Wednesday because I don't know how to word it, but everything tells me that that's where I need to be. And I think a lot of these people up here will tell you that I was like in my element down there. Like I've never been so happy. So I sent the email to Irvin on Wednesday, and I haven't heard back yet. So if you could say a little prayer that I at least hear something. And I'll wrap this up. But but I am so grateful to all of you for sending me. I'm going to be selfish. For sending me, because I feel like had I not gone, I wouldn't know that this is where I need to be. And I think some of you have probably felt this before, when you feel like you've found your soul's calling. And it's like in that moment, nothing else really matters. Like money doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how I'm going to get there. It just matters that I want to be there and that I know I need to. So, little Jose Aragon changed my life. And I'm hoping that maybe in January I'll be able to see him and give him all hugs again. Thanks.
Thanks, Rachel. Thank you.
I can. What? What?
If this slips out of my hand, it's only because it's all wet from the tears.
I'm over you.
I'm Larry, and I'm Brandon and Darren's other brother, Larry. I think I come at it from a little bit more selfish standpoint than maybe what the others did. I'm a worrier. I worry about a lot of stuff. I worry about the health of my children and my family and the finances of the family. But I'm stupid enough to worry about whether the paper hit the bush and ruined my bush in the morning, too. And so I just have these issues. And I've gone on a mission trip before, a couple of mission trips before, but this one, for some reason, really got the best of me in terms of my anxieties. I'm literally laying in bed at night, the night before, well, the morning that we're supposed to go catch the flight. And I say to Jan, my wife, I don't think I can do this. And I said, and I don't know how to tactfully tell Brandon that there's a good reason for me not to go. I mean, I questioned the 7-hour flight. I questioned whether I'd be able to make the van trip. They said bus, and I was expecting the worst, the trip into the mountains. I was questioning whether I could handle the maybe 2 or 3 hours that we had of concrete, and then brick, and then dirt roads. The last, I was questioning whether I could handle the accommodations that were quite different than what we have grown accustomed to. I had questioned whether I would be exposed for being the not-so-good Christian that I know myself to be. I questioned whether or not I'd be able to gel with the rest of the group, because we knew of each other, but very few of us knew each other before we went off. And I have to say that it's a really surprising turn of events that I personally experienced down there. First of all, I was just amazed that we were received, like Darren talked about, in the manner we were received. Folks down there that have literally nothing in material possessions gave us everything in their emotions and in their I'm doing it too, and in their spiritual, and then just their emotions. They gave us everything. I got a chance to talk to a kid that I sponsored down there, and I'll get to this a little bit more in a second, but Rachel happened to be the translator for me, and I don't think she said a word that I said to this kid because he responded so well. It was to such an extent. I'm a grandfather and I'm a father. And we got off the bus the next day after we had this initial meeting with his kid, and all I heard getting off the bus was "Laddie, Laddie," and he comes up, Anthony, and just throws his arms around me. And here I am crying in front of 12 people that I barely know in this group, and the whole village that I don't know at all and can't speak their language. It was just an incredible emotion, a series of emotions. And if there's a takeaway for me, I think one of the takeaways would be that if you sponsor a kid, and I'm going to sponsor another kid, and maybe would encourage you, if you're thinking about it, to do that. There is so much more than writing the check every month, which is what I got in the habit of doing. I wrote the check, felt like I was doing my duty, and that was it. The first question Anthony asked me through Rachel was, "Why didn't you write me?" And it dawned on me there that it's more than money. It's got a lot to do with, they want to know that somebody's thinking about them. They want to know somebody cares about them, and they want to know somebody's praying for them. And if they don't get a letter, they don't know they're sponsored. I think the other takeaway for me was that while I may have felt the fear of being exposed for being a lesser person than what I'd like to be, they accept unconditionally. I mean, it's just phenomenal how they reached out to touch us, and I think what I took from them is probably greater than what I left with them, because they were seeking something so different than what I thought I was seeking when I went down there. And I guess third of all, I think it's just amazing that 12 people that didn't know much about each other were able to survive some of the things that we went through. It's a dirt road. I mean, and we're in the middle of nowhere. You have power surges. You have food that you're not sure is the right thing to eat. You get stuck in the mud in the middle of with your boss, and you're out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, but in a closed quarters like this, and in conditions like this, it would have been so easy for people to lash out. But I think it made us bond and made the trip that much better. So, I guess in closing, if I were on the fence and as fearful as I was, and hadn't had the courage to at least go on, it might not have been courage. It might have been I just didn't want to tell Brandon. But the fact of the matter is, it's probably one of the most rewarding experiences of my life, and I think that the people we touched down there would say the same.
Could I break the circle? Okay, cool. My name's Jeremy, and the first probably worry that I had was the group that I'd be traveling with, not because I knew them, but because I didn't know them. And just hanging out with everyone was just incredible to get to know everyone, and it made the trip so good for me. So that's the first thing I have to say. Secondly, I think going on this trip, I'm used to seeing those promo videos with children crying and starving to death, and so you think that that's what it's going to be like, just really depressing and sad, and there's a lot of poverty, but I think that a profound thing is that the happiness that is present in the families and the children is just so crazy to see. Even, yes, there is poverty and sickness and bad conditions, but they're happy through it all. And it's just, it really gets rid of the arrogance that you can have sometimes, thinking that we're there to help them and they have nothing to give in return to us. And that was definitely proven wrong by the children and the families. And that was the most profound thing to see. And Rachel was a huge asset. She was probably better than the FH translators, not saying negative things about them, but she was a huge asset, and to see her with the kids, and it was just a joy to see. It was crazy. And the whole experience of sponsoring a child, there's a lot of psychological distance between your child. You go home with a photo in your hand, and they're thousands of miles away. And so it's more of an abstract idea when you first sponsor a child. And when you're actually there and you meet your child for the first time, it becomes concrete in a way. And just the abstractness, the way you perceive it just changes. It's almost like you didn't really know you were sponsoring a child, and when you're sitting down with them, talking with them, it becomes a real thing. And so I guess that would be the main reason I would encourage anyone to go on a trip like this, is to actually experience what it is to sponsor a child. And like they said, most of these people, some of them don't even know their sponsor's name, and they would love to see you. All the kids would love to see their sponsors so much. So that's all I have to say.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I will say, first of all, I'm having flashbacks to the bus sitting between these two again. Like many hours with these guys. But I think one of the things that I took home was the extreme generosity and hospitality of the people in the country. We were on a ride through the countryside of San Bartolo one afternoon, and Demas, I don't know exactly what happened in the truck, but he got out at a local's home, somebody in the village. Next thing you know, we're all piling out of the bus and the truck to these poor people's homes who are just sitting out in their house and looking at their land and all their crops. Coffee plants, to their plantains, to their corn crops, to the mango trees. And this family started opening up all their mangoes and serving us and welcoming us into their kitchen to see what a typical Nicaraguan kitchen looked like without a second thought. And they were just happy to have us there and welcome us there. And I was talking with a couple of the men of the family, and they were so happy to show us this 5-meter well that they had. And they were just proud of what they had, that they weren't missing anything, the joy and the excitement. But to have, a group of 14 of us pile out and just start serving us the little food that they did have was just amazing to me, because so many times I pull into my driveway, you close your garage, you never say hi to anybody. And to just open up their home and the hospitality and the graciousness that they showed, I think is something that I'm going to always take home with me.
So I'm Carl, Michelle's husband, and tag along. I kind of touch on what Larry was talking about. I go on these things to get me out of my element, because if I just go down to downtown Phoenix, downtown Chandler, or even down the street and serve, I always come back to what's comfortable, and I always get everything I need at some point. And when you go to, and I actually don't even try to think about what we're going to do down there the whole time. I don't even really want to know. I just would rather just get down there and just live like they live and be with them. And I was in my element when we were able to work. It was only for about 3 hours. We were able to work with these guys. And, Food for the Hungry does it right. We're not in there to come in and tell them what to do, but we're in there to move concrete with them, and all this, what we don't really do ourselves because we have machines, but they don't. And you get down there, you work alongside these guys long enough, you start really learning about them. They start seeing you as somebody they're equal and not somebody who's just trying to come in and give them something, and I never really felt like they thought it was, skepticism, what these guys doing here, especially when I'm working side by side with them, it's just like, let's just get in there and knock this out. And so, but if you are thinking about going on a mission trip, I would encourage you just to try to open yourself up when you get down there to wherever a mission trip is. It doesn't have to be Nicaragua. It doesn't have to be even far off, but just try and open yourself to who you're working with, and just try and see it from their perspective.
I was afraid I would be last because everyone already said the good things. But my name's Felicia. Before I started preparing to go to Nicaragua, I really didn't know where it was on a map. But there's a little map on the screen, so you can see it there. But so I'm just really glad I got to go, and I think it really just gave me awareness of what's going on in the world. And you kind of have these pictures in your mind of what it's going to be like, and I was definitely poverty. It was beautiful country, and it was just also strange to see how they're developing the technology like differently than we are, but at the same time, like, we had Wi-Fi in our hotel, and like, a lot of them have cell phones, and it's just, but then they don't have their basic needs, and it's very strange, and it was hard to like just kind of understand how it's happening. And I'm just so glad that we are working with Food for the Hungry, because they are, like they said, really sustainable. And that's like a trending word right now, but it's so true for them. And one of the biggest takeaways that I got was, of course, with my child. The first day that they welcomed us, I was looking all around these hundreds of kids and thinking, would I recognize her? And I did see her, and it just melted my heart to see her. Yeah, but I kept it together when I met her, partially because of the language barrier, but they would wonder why I'm just sitting here crying and I can't say anything now. But so yeah, it was just very special to see her, and maybe it's because I don't have kids. I just loved her so much just from seeing her, and it's just so wonderful. And I definitely encourage anyone who doesn't have a child to get one, and if you do have one, to go and meet them, because it does make it so real, just to see them face to face and be able to hug them and see their parents. And I loved that our child's parents are both teachers, and so we know that she's going to be able to be in education for a long time. And I mean, we hope she doesn't get sick or anything, and we pray for that. But yeah, and yeah, I think that's about it.
Thank you, guys. I got to share a couple of weeks ago in a sermon about my experience meeting Hannah's and my sponsor child, Glady, and her amazing mother. I guess the takeaway that I would share today is something I'm still processing. Do you feel that way? Like, I'm still kind of just wrapping my mind around it. But I guess what I have right now is that it's kind of like the yin and yang, that you have the realization that this is how half the world lives. Oh my goodness. And getting back on the 202 after landing at Sky Harbor was surreal. Right. Like, to have there's a freeway, I can take to get to my house. That's like something you take for granted. It's just so wild. But there's this poverty, and they're right. There's happiness and joy and hospitality, and at the same time, yeah, parents would like it if their kids didn't have worms, and if their kids could wash their hands. And I mean, the latrine situation at the school, right? I mean, just hygiene things that we take for granted. Of course, they don't have. So that's the dark side, the poverty, and that is so prevalent in our world. But then the light side that I see, and that sustains me and gives me so much hope for the future, is that you also have people like this who are willing to pick up a packet, sponsor a child, willing to get on the plane and go, and love, even in a situation where it's mysterious, they don't know what they're getting themselves into, but be open to that and love conquers all. You know, the language barriers and all the cultural differences, love conquers all. And to know that, I mean, there are kids in that village who absolutely are going to have a better future because of what's going on right here. And we are humbled to be a part of that. That is not prideful at all to say that. That's an honor that we get to say that. But it's the truth. And it's because of all of you. And I really, really appreciate you. Can we thank our team here? Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Sorry? Yeah, oh, yes. Rachel help us out.
All
Thanks,
right,
Rachel.
so we found out when we were in Nicaragua that there's no designation in the FH system that says which kids are sponsored by one church. It's just by whatever name you signed up with on their website to sponsor a child. So we've decided that we wanted to make like a spreadsheet so that we have a list of everybody who's sponsored, because that doesn't exist right now. So I will be back at the information table with a notebook. I don't need your kid's name. If you have it, that's great. We just need the name that you signed up under. So if you signed up under like Mrs. So-and-so, like under your husband's name, then we need that, or a nickname. That's the name that we need because that's the name that's in the system. So I know that's kind of like a break from the emotional, but we want to make sure that we know all of the kids that we're sponsoring, and when groups go down, we can know who all the kids that are sponsored by one church are.
That's important, thank you. So there's a notebook in the information center. So to be clear, everybody who's sponsored a kid, we want you to stop by the information center.
Yes, please just come by and give me your name real fast.
Yeah, Rachel's already getting started on the job down in Nicaragua. Look at that. Great. So thank you so much. Right now, we're going to go ahead and we all can have a seat, and we're going to watch a 5-minute video. And Food for the Hungry created this video. We didn't make it. Food for the Hungry created the video. And now, thank you to the team for doing such an amazing job of sharing. Thank you for those who sponsor kids. I want you to know, even if you didn't go on this trip, you're still a part of this. Your fingerprints are all over that feeding center in Nicaragua. This congregation helped to fund that and make that happen. Now, if you would like to go on the next trip, there's going to be some information over the next few weeks, so stay tuned. There are going to be opportunities. Could be spring break, could be summer. We're working out the details, but there's going to be an opportunity for you to go and meet these kids in San Bartolo and serve. We also have 2 sponsorship packets on the information table. There are 2 children there who need to find sponsors. If you'd like to sponsor a child, you can stop by and sponsor a child. And please, as Rachel said, please go by, if you're sponsoring a child already, go by and sign your name to that notebook so we'll know who you are. I want to thank you for the privilege that it is, and even when I get to go away and go speak at our sponsor church or whatever, I come back, I want to thank you for the privilege of being the pastor of an awesome congregation like this. No, you're applauding for yourselves. How selfish of you to do that. No, I'm kidding. No, it's a privilege, and to be able to have experiences like this and know that we really do have partners in San Bartolo, and God is changing lives. It's so great. And I want to thank you for that.